intimidating to be up here amongst all these master's candidates, but I do hope that you'll find my presentation interesting. I lived in Japan for about 4.5 years, and 3 of those years were spent in Aomori, which is northern Japan, just south of Hokkaido. While I was there, I translated about 200 folk tales, and so my presentation today is about one of the stranger ones, claiming that Christ's grave is actually in a tiny village in northern Japan. So this is Aomori Prefecture, and this is Shingo Village. It's about 3,000 people living there, and this is the place where apparently Christ's grave is. This is Aomori City and Hachinohe City. I'll talk a bit more about those later. So I first came across this story in 2007. It's sort of been in the back of my mind since then. I would like to do an actual project with it, but I don't know where to go with it from here because the sources are so strange, wrong. I'm kind of stuck with this project right now, so if anyone has any suggestions for me, I would be very interested to know maybe what more I can do with this. I think we can probably all agree that it's unlikely that Christ's grave actually is in this little village, but there are a sufficient amount of rather strange customs in this town that something happened there, somebody went there. I don't think it's impossible to figure out maybe what happened, and I would like to. This is something I'm interested in. Why does it matter is a good place to start. Another project that I'm working on this semester is looking at the evolution of a story from a Greek myth to a Buddhist didactic play to a puppet theater to a modern version of the story to an avant-garde play written by a Japanese author. And it's been very interesting looking at the changes that have taken place to this story. The folktale as well involving Christ's grave was discovered in 1930, discovered becoming known outside of this little town. I don't know how long it actually was passed down in Shingo Village. So we have this version in 1930. It got a lot of press in newspapers around 1950. I haven't found a version from then, but I'm sure that there is one. And the 2 versions that I have were actually collected by PTA committees in the 1990s. So I think it would be interesting to look at the changes that happened between these versions, what is added, what's taken out, and for what purpose. In the 1930s, Japan is very imperialistic, taking over places. 1950s is obviously occupied Japan to the versions that we have now. I think it would be interesting to see what has changed in the story over this time. Why does it matter to me? I'm interested in this subject. I intend to continue studying Japanese folk tales, so this is a niche I would like to hunker down in. This project is important to me. And as Yanagita Kunio points out, this is sort of the father of Japanese folklore studies. Although the contents of folk tales and legends are not facts, that they are believed and passed down is a historical fact. So folk tales are important. So as I mentioned, I do have 2 versions of this story, both collected around 1990. The details between the stories differ a little bit, but they are basically the same. It's said that Jesus Christ switched places with his younger brother, got into a boat with a bunch of his apprentices, sailed around Siberia, had a bunch of adventures, and eventually landed in Hachinohe, which you saw on the map earlier, and traveled up a river, landed in Shingo Village, married a Japanese woman. In one version, her name is Miyu. In another version, she is Miyuki, and becomes a poor farmer and lives in Shingo Village for the rest of his life. In one version, he lives to be 106, and in the other, 116. So either way, he was there for quite a while. And where In both versions, when he came to Japan to escape crucifixion, it was not his first time in Japan. Apparently he had spent a period of about 10 years in Japan studying religion before going back and teaching what he had learned, which is what got him into trouble. In one version, he studies with a priest in Ishikawa Prefecture, and in another version, he studies in Ibaraki Prefecture. I'm not sure if this can be picked up on to find out whether or not these people actually existed. Maybe something I can work on later. So there are a number of customs and evidence. There's a number of customs and some various evidences offered to support this story. One of them is Kaikura Jinja in Hachinohe. There's a storage shed there that supposedly once contained the boat that Jesus had arrived in. I'm not sure whether or not this is the best evidence because the kanji characters for Kaikura Jinja, the Kaikura is shell storage. So whether it was boat storage or shell storage, I'm not sure. I'm quite certain I have actually been to this shrine. Unfortunately, I don't always know the names of places I've been. If I had anticipated doing this presentation, I would have paid more attention. I think I have been there. It is a very small shed. I do not know if a boat that would fit in this shed is something that you would want to travel overseas with, but there we have it. The Sawaguchi family. Oh, this is some good images. Christ's grave is very well known in the area. It's a tourist spot. There's lots of signs to get you there. And I have been here. This is kind of funny. The pyramid in one direction and Christ's grave in the other. Aomori is a rather interesting place. Here's a coffee mug with Christ's grave on it and the lyrics to a song that we'll be talking about soon. That is Christ's grave in Shingo Village. And what I actually wanted to get to. So the Sawaguchi family in Shingo Village, they still live there, are said to be Christ's descendants. This is a picture of Sawaguchi Sanjiro. They are supposed to be tall, big noses, Western-looking features. I'm not really sure what we can do with that. The evidence is what it is. This is a picture of Sawaguchi Sanjiro. The Sawaguchi family crest is an interesting thing. Here's a picture of their crest on their house, which is actually quite close to that burial mound that you just saw. It's maybe 200 meters away. It's the same place, so that's their crest. And this is the Sawaguchi family grave, again with the family crest up there. It looks like David's star. Why did this happen? This is one of the things that is offered as evidence for the Christ being buried in Japan story. So I looked into family crests a little bit. I think I need a marker. Sorry. Thank you. So Sawaguchi, sorry, this is going to get swished over here. Sawaguchi would be written like that. It's like a swamp pond mouth, and we have the family crest that looks like a star. So apparently completely unrelated, although this is something that happens a lot with Japanese family names and Japanese family crests. Although a lot of family crests are natural images and a lot of family names are kanji that describe natural things, forests, mountains, rivers. They're often completely unrelated. So one of the crests that I have seen, these are some geometric shapes. I thought that it was kind of remarkable that We have diamond shapes and sort of geometrics, but really nothing that looks like a star as we would draw it normally. So these are stars as you would see them usually in Japan, just represented by a circle. And I have seen the Sawa part looking very similar to this one. So the connection between the pond swamp and the stars is maybe not such a stretch, but then from the pond swamp to the stars represented as dots to the stars on Sawaguchi, 5 minutes, thank you, maybe is interesting. I kind of hesitate to show the next one, but the closest we have to a star is hemp. I don't know what to do with that, but there you have it. And the next two are just ones that I thought were pretty. I think this is nice. I really like the chili peppers as well, that's good. So we have the Sawaguchi family crest. There's another custom in Shingo village of before you take your baby outside for the first time, you draw a cross on their forehead, and this is said to protect them from harm. This is not something that I know of from the Christian tradition, but drawing crosses on babies' foreheads is sort of notable. I don't know of any other place that this happens, although there are traditions specific to raising children and almost every other aspect of your life that are very village specific. I know another village where kagami mochis, New Year's decoration, is usually these rice cakes and a tangerine on top. There's one village where there's no tangerine, it's bad luck because of a rather bleak little folk tale. Another village where there's a magic rock that you put your baby on for a while and then your baby cries less, and that tradition is specific to the village. So there are precedents for this, but not really anything that I know of for the crosses on the baby's foreheads. There's also another rather silly tradition of if your leg falls asleep, next time that happens to you, use a little spit and draw a cross on your forehead. This will apparently help your leg wake up a little sooner. This is another rather strange tradition that is specific to Shingo village. But what I really wanted to talk about was a song called Nanya Goyara, so let's watch this. This is Oban Festival in Shingo village. And dance around Christ's burial mound. Unfortunately, we're not going to watch all of it because I've already got the 5-minute sign. And as far as working with this story more in the future, I think that this is a good place for me to start. These are the lyrics to Nanya Doyara, the song that you just saw being performed. And villages, places in Japan for Oban Festival do have their own songs specific to the areas, but a typical song would be sort of women dancing, singing, we are singing for our ancestors, we hope you like it. The lyrics have meaning, and I've done a lot of work with this, and so far as I can tell, it does not have any meaning. In the folk tales, this song is supposed to be a combination of Japanese, the local dialect, and Hebrew. I've spoken with a lot of people in the area, in Aomori and Hachinohe, which you saw on the maps earlier. Although they are quite close together, they do have two different dialects. People in Aomori and Hachinohe neither can make any sense of this. It is not Japanese. I've spoken with Dr. Shalensky at UVic and also a friend of mine living in Tel Aviv who understands Hebrew, and there's no Hebrew in this either. So we have this song that I don't know what to do with. It is sort of out there by itself. It does not fit into this pattern of songs talking about your ancestors Oban Festival, and it doesn't really fit into any language that I know of. It is maybe gibberish, but that answer is not satisfying to me. I would like to go deeper down this rabbit hole and figure out what this song is all about. So, I'm out of time.
We have 5 minutes, but we're leaving time for questions.
Oh yeah?
So
Alright.
continue.
As long as nobody has any questions, we'll be fine. So where did this story come from? I think that a reasonable explanation is that a Christian missionary probably escaped to Albury in the 16th or 17th century. This would make sense for a number of reasons. Christian missionaries started arriving in Japan around 1550, and by 1600 they had converted about 300,000 people, so they had significant success in converting people to Christianity. However, that was a rather bad time to be seen as a threat in terms of power. At that time, Japan was politically very fragmented, and so not long after they began winning over all of these Christian converts, people began cracking down and saying, no, you can't do this. Oh dear, I don't want to talk about that. This is a monument in Nagasaki for the Nijiroku Seijin. 26 Japanese and foreign Christians were crucified in Nagasaki, and they made this monument for them. And then in 1637 and 1638, the Shimbar Revolution near Nagasaki is another very important event. That revolution actually became one of the major reasons that Japan shut its doors and stopped letting foreigners in and Japanese people in or out. That revolution was basically started by Christians, both foreign and Japanese. So after that, Christians were made to renounce their faith. It was not allowed in Japan anymore. So we have 300,000-ish people who either disappear or give up their religion. Where did they all go? Perhaps one of them went to Shingo. I don't think that's unreasonable assumption to make. There's also some really interesting images from this time. Some people did go underground, and 250 years later, when Christianity was again allowed, thank you, they found these little sort of hidden sects that had actually existed all the time. There's stories about hidden rooms, and this is an image of the Virgin Mary disguised as the Buddhist god Kannon. It's an interesting little statue there. So as I mentioned before, I don't know where to go with this story from here. I think maybe trying to get a hold of the Sawaguchi family records might be something. Teaming up with a linguist or someone who knows more about songs for Oban Festival than I do would maybe be another idea. I mentioned earlier that when Christ came to Japan to escape crucifixion was the second time. The first time he came and studied religion, he was supposedly studying under a man named Hirai Taro Tenkubo. Be interesting to find out whether or not this person actually exists, and trying to confirm whether or not Kaikura Jinja, the shell storage or boat storage, trying to figure out what that shed was actually used for is maybe another thing to pick up on. So that's my presentation. I hope you found it interesting, and are there any questions?